Hello, everybody. It is election season in 2026, and from time to time, Denton Matters holds forums. There are a lot of forums this year, so we're not actually holding a forum. But one of the things that we are doing right now is checking in with some people that you may not necessarily know. Every year, the middle child of elections is the school board races, and one of the things about these is it is perhaps one of the most important elections that runs under the radar in Denton County that you'll find. We've gotten very lucky by having, what I feel are the right candidates win the last few years. This year, we don't have an incumbent coming in. So one of the people that we want to make sure that we introduce you to is Greg Petolick, who's running for Denton ISD School Board. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Greg.
Hey Matt, thank you so much. I appreciate what you do and getting the opportunity to talk to the folks at Denton Matters. Name's Greg Petolick. As Matt said, I'm running for Denton ISD School Board, place number 6. I am running because I am passionate about education, public education to be precise. I am a retired management consultant from Ernst & Young, which is a global accounting and management consulting firm. Worked with Fortune 100 companies on their process improvement around their finance and tax organizations, working with processes, technology, data analytics, all those things. When I retired, I started teaching at SMU as an adjunct professor, and I teach some data analytics and accounting information systems to accounting folks. Some of the areas that I'd really like to focus on, well, let me tell you a little bit about my family. My wife is a teacher in Denton ISD. She teaches in the furthest most northeast school, elementary school within the district, Sandbrook Ranch. She's an instructional coach. My youngest child is a high school teacher in Louisville ISD at Hebron High School. She's also a coach. Her husband is a teacher in Northwest ISD, and he's also a coach. My sister and niece are both special ed teachers in the Chicago area where I'm from originally. So why am I running? Academic excellence is something that I'm passionate about. I don't believe in a 180 some square mile district like Denton that serves 14, 15 different municipalities. There's a pretty big difference within the schools if you compare them across our district. So we've got some schools that are operating at an A and B level, and some schools that are at a D and close to failing. We need to work really hard to get the failing schools and the schools that are of interest to us. We need to work really hard to get them up to a level that's comparable to the AB schools within our district. No matter
When
where
when you
you
say
live
that,
within.
and I hate to interrupt, when you mention that, what are some of the things that like school board can do that to affect that, right? Because I think
Yeah,
most people just kind of go, this is based on like whoever the principals and teachers are there. When you look at it, from a school board point of view, what's something
yeah,
that you think I would like to see happen in these schools that are underperforming that you don't think is
yeah.
happening now?
Yeah, one of the things that, or two of the things that really school board members can do is hire and fire superintendent, right? Hold their feet to the fire. I think that we've got a good superintendent in the past couple of years, Dr. O'Bara. Um, and the other is policy, right? Setting policy and setting the budget. I think that one of the things that we can do is make sure that there is, even though we are very tight on our budget, we need to figure out how we can shift some of our resources to those underperforming schools so that we can bring in some additional instructional coaches, bring in some additional resources that can work one-on-one with those students to help them get on level, right? So that they're moving from a D to a C to a B on the things that matter to the state, the STAR test. Now, I'm not big on
Right.
testing, but it's something that we have to be cognizant of, and it's how we're rated by the state and how a lot of people look at school districts when you're doing comparisons. So that's kind of how I see my role as a board member, is making sure that the schools have the resources that they need in order to get that work done and focus on those kids. So that brings me to my second issue that I'd really like to focus on, supporting great teachers. I
Okay.
was the chairman of the Vote for Denton ISD Kids, the PAC, back in November, that helped get the the tax rate increase passed. I know a lot of people are concerned with tax rate increases. I am too. I'm a homeowner. I pay my taxes, but I think that there are some taxes that are beneficial to our community and to our economy. Schools are one of those. Where are we going to get our workers in the future? From our public schools. We need to make sure that our school children are ready and able to go, no matter if they go to college, no matter if they go in directly into a career because they've gotten certificates from our great LaGrone Academy, or if they go into the military, right? We need to make sure that our students are ready and capable, and that they have the critical thinking skills that can really help them perform in our changing economy. So supporting teachers, making sure that they have the tools available to do that. When I was on the PAC, I found out I was sitting through some of the presentations that the school district was doing, talking about why we needed some extra money. And one of the things that came across loud and clear was that our teachers are the lowest paid teachers within Denton ISD, starting or within Denton County, starting with their starting salary. I was appalled at that, frankly. I thought our teachers deserve better. I live in the eastern zone of the district, right across the street from Broswell High School. If you go down 380 east about 5 miles and you go one block south, there's a brand new high school from Frisco. If you go one block north, there's a brand new high school from Prosper. What's stopping the teachers that we train at Braswell from going 5 miles down the road and making more money? People like to say, well, teaching is something that people do. They have a heart for it. Absolutely. My wife has that. My daughter has that. My son-in-law has that. But they have to pay the bills. So
Right.
making sure that they're fairly compensated for the work that they do. Final thing is fiscal transparency and responsibility, making sure that our taxpayers understand where the money is coming from, that they're paying us, where that money goes. We don't keep all of that money in Denton ISD. Some of that money goes to the state to support some poorer school districts. I don't think people realize that that's happening. They just see their tax bill increase every year because our property taxes go up, and they don't understand really or don't realize that the district doesn't keep all that money. Some of that money goes away to the state. So those are the three areas that I'd really like to focus on. The final thing that I like to focus on is we've had too much partisanship in our politics today. I'd really like
Yeah.
to focus on building bridges and building partnerships.
So let's hop back on a couple of those.
Okay.
We'll start with the last one that you mentioned. We talk about partisanship. A lot of the people who vote in the school board, elections are generally kind of paying attention to partisan issues, right? And over the last, I don't know, I guess maybe what 8 years, school board elections have become kind of a hotbed of people trying to get in and pass political agendas. In Denton County, in Denton ISD, I think the last few elections have kind of swung on the idea of someone coming in to ban books, or there's been a social agenda. Um,
Hmm.
we don't see that this year, right? This is
No.
so I haven't seen anything come out that says any particular candidate doesn't support certain things in our libraries or certain ways kids identify. So this year is kind of a little bit different, right? Because basically it's more about qualifications and things like that. What are
Hmm.
your thoughts on that?
I agree with you. One of the areas that I think really makes me the most qualified candidate in the race for place six is that I bring a business perspective to the schools. I don't think that we need to make our schools into a business model, but I think some of the processes and improvement areas that I can bring to the table and my understanding of fiscal responsibility and how budgets work and things like that are really a benefit. The other things that I think make me the most qualified candidate is I was on the 2023 bond committee. I understood from the school district's perspective what their priorities were, what they wanted to fund, and I was part of a group of probably about 90 to 100 citizens that sat in a room, listened to all of those things, listened to all the different departments talk about why they needed the additional funding and what they wanted to do with it. The main thing, right, is we're a fast growth district. We need to make sure that we keep our schools in line with the growth that's coming. So I was part of that team. That team uh, got the wish list from the district, right? And we as citizens kind of came back and said, well, we only have so much money that we can ask our voters for. Let's
Yeah.
whittle that wish list down to things that we really, really need. Present them to the voters, and then the voters have an opportunity to say yay or nay. And frankly, I think it worked really well. The voters did turn down one of the propositions that the school district put forth to refurbish Collins Stadium. So the other issues passed. That issue didn't. We heard loud and clear from the community that that wasn't a priority for them. The other area that I've worked on was the 1925 committee, so named because the Texas legislature hadn't increased our student allotment since 2019. So we all know what happened between 2019 and 2025.
Right.
Inflation took off, things cost more, not just for our households, but for schools also. So the per student fee that we were getting from the state didn't increase it from 19 to 25. We were trying to figure out how to do 2025 work with the 19 or with the 2019 budget, right? The state finally came out and gave us 55 extra dollars per
Per
student,
student.
which was nowhere near cover just the inflation amount.
Well, and that's one of the things that like I think a lot of people don't realize, right? They see in Austin there are these headlines that come out that say the state has passed mandatory raises for teachers, or they passed basically new laws that demand certain safety regulations, security, in the extremely post Columbine society. But
Yes,
very often the school districts don't get any money from that. It's just that you guys need to do this, and you're not getting a lot of money from the state. Is that
yeah,
is that accurate? Okay.
that is accurate actually, and I don't think that people realize that. So the legislature gave each teacher within the district, it was based on years of service and things of that nature, a $5,000 increase, which was great. My wife's a teacher. We loved it, right? We appreciated the raise. The issue for the school district was in payroll, you have costs outside of the money that's going directly to the individual. You have Social Security or TRS, the state
The retirement
retirement
system.
fund.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you have that funding. You have Medicare. You have those, which can be, you know, 15% of the $5,000. We got the $5,000 from the state, but we didn't get that 15% or whatever that percentage is. So the school district needed to find money to plug that hole. The other issue that came out of that was they gave the money to the teachers, but no one else within the school district, right?
Yeah.
So administrators, librarians, other people were not coded as teachers. They didn't get that money. So the school district said, we haven't given a raise in a while. We need to figure out how to get more money to all of our people, not just our teachers. Our teachers are most important. We're some of them, the front line, right? But we also need to make sure we take care of all of our people. The other issue that you brought up was safety, Columbine. Um, the state legislature said, "Hey, we need a police officer or equivalent in each school building." It's a great law. I love that law. They came out and said, "We'll give you some money for it," and it turned out to be 20% of the cost of doing that. So the school districts had to take money from other areas, whittle down services that they were providing in order to meet that unfunded mandate. Well, the legislature saw in this last go around that they had a problem and that they didn't fund correctly. So they gave school districts 20% more, right? So now we're at 40%. We're thankful for the money, but we're still trying to figure out where do we get that extra money from, right? So the PAC, that money that passed was able to support the security requirements, some of the teacher raises, That was the big thing that I was pushing for during my time on the PAC, was to get that teacher raise. And the school district came through loud and clear. In this last paycheck, they gave everyone a $750 increase or raise bonus, kind of, that
Yeah.
from a teacher perspective, that went straight to their bottom line. So it's going to become part of the baseline for the raises coming next year. So great news, right? We're working to get our pay scale up to at least the minimum or the middle of Denton County, right? Which is, I'd love to be at the top, but we
Yeah.
need to take baby steps.
Yeah. And that kind of brings us back to what the basic functional school board should be, right? Because over the years, there's been these kind of peripheral things that have kind of driven the news cycle and everything. In essence, what you guys are supposed to be doing is a lot of budget stuff, right? Looking at the numbers, looking at the dollars, making sure that we're
Right,
represented in that, right?
right. Absolutely. I need to make sure that we're funding our schools accurately, but I also need to make sure that we're good stewards of that money, that we're not wasting it, right? What are we doing to mitigate some of the costs that we've got? Was it at a board meeting, just the last board meeting that came out, and they did an energy compliance audit where the energy folks that help uh, bring down our energy costs throughout the district came in, and they talked a little bit about what they're doing to bring down those costs and how they can control energy consumption. One of the things that they talked about was the uh, solar panels that are going up on new schools. And the original payback on those was supposed to be 15 years.
Mhm.
What they said was that the payback wasn't working out to be 15 years. It was probably closer to 20 or 25. So we need to figure out what was wrong with our assumptions. Why were our assumptions incorrect? Was the technology not ready for prime time? Did we listen to a sales rep that
When you talk about
maybe
when you talk about the pay, I just want to make sure when we talk about the payback, what you're talking about is the return on investment, right? You guys paid
return on
X amount.
investment?
You paid X
Right.
amount for the solar panel, and over X period of time, we would have saved enough to justify it, or et cetera, right?
Absolutely. And then
Okay,
it
all right,
starts and then it starts paying back for us, right? So
yeah,
we need to make sure that we're spending our money wisely, right? If the solar panels aren't paying back for 20 or 25 years, and in in 20 or 25 years they start giving us a benefit, and the technology wears out in 20, 25 years,
yeah,
we have to replace them. So what did we really save in the long run? Right? It cost us money. We didn't really get the benefit because the technology wore out. So we need to do a really good job of looking at the technology and not just implementing technology for technology's sake, making sure that it makes sense from a cost perspective, and there's a benefit for the school district.
You mentioned going to school board meetings, right? And one of the things, for the people who follow these closely, we wind up seeing a lot of candidates who, will run for city council but have never voted, right? Or,
Mhm.
run for school board but don't go to school board meetings. You mentioned that you go to school board meetings, which is important. What are some of the things that you've seen come up in meetings that make you go, this is something I need to look forward to, or think about? This is something we're going to run into after this election that
Yeah,
we should be considering.
yeah. The budget right now,
Yeah.
they're working really diligently on getting the budget set for the 26-27 school year. So for the past three meetings, that has been a topic of conversation where they've talked about what is our attendance rate, because that's how the schools are funded. The schools aren't funded by the amount of students that are enrolled. So if I have
Yeah.
100 students enroll and only 95 show up each day, school district's being paid for those 95 students. Those five students that aren't there, we lose that money, right?
Yeah.
We don't lose the staff that was supporting them. We don't lose the bus driver that was riding that route, right? From a sensical perspective, the way that the state funds our schools doesn't really make sense to me. But it is what it is. It's what we have to live with. We need to figure out the best way to do that. So they were talking about attendances. What our attendance is? It's ticking up since COVID. It's getting back to where it was pre-COVID, which is a great thing. The other issues that they're talking about is what is our tax base going to be, and what kind of tax can we expect to collect, and what will we have to give back to the state from that amount that we collect. So there's a lot of moving parts that are going on. The other thing that they do, which I found very interesting, and I think it's a pretty good best practice, is each month they come in and talk about how are we on track for this year's budget? Are we over? Are we under? Where are we? What kind of levers do we need to move to make sure that we don't overspend or that we're spending the money that's allotted to us? I think that someone who doesn't go to a board meeting and listening to these things over time is going to be drinking from a fire hose once they get into a position. So I'm glad that I have the opportunity to go. Next one's tomorrow night.
Awesome. So real quick, I want to just maybe get in a couple of things more before I let you get back for the rest of your day. You mentioned partisanship a little while ago, right? And that school board elections are nonpartisan. And for people who are not really aware of this, when you're going down the ballot in November, you see a D or an R behind people's names. In the May elections, we do not see Ds or Rs, and it winds up becoming an important thing, right? Because you want the most qualified person, right? You want the person who's paying attention to some issues. One of the things that I notice in Denton Matters, looking at finance reports, is people, and people claim to be nonpartisan, but if you look in their finance reports, and I hope this isn't a gotcha question, you find out that they take money from particular PACs or something that have a specific bent, and it always makes you wonder what their responsibility is going to be once they get elected. What are your thoughts on that? What are your, who you've been talking to, what has your been, because as far as I know, you are running a pretty nonpartisan campaign.
I'm trying
Tell us
to.
a
I'm
little
trying
about
to.
that.
I talk a little bit about the walking the thin purple line, right? Making
Right.
sure that I don't, you know, this is my first rodeo, so this is my
Right.
first time into politics. Um, in the past, I voted, right? That was my civic duty. I went
Yeah.
did the primaries and then went and voted in the general, voting for my conscience for
Yeah.
who's the best person in the general,
And I want to
right?
make sure I'm stressing that I'm not asking you to go declare declare
No, no,
a
no,
letter.
it's
Okay. All right. All right.
right, right, right.
Yeah.
I'm not going there. But
Okay.
lost my train of thought. So I'm walking that thin purple line. I've been visiting with Republicans. I've been visiting with Democrats. I've been visiting with example, Ropes and Ranch Conservative Coalition or Club, Ropes and Ranch Republican Club, Ropes and Ranch Democrat Club. Yesterday afternoon, I was out at the Lantana area Democrats, where the Denton County Democrats hosted a forum. It was pretty interesting, kind of spicy, if you will.
Yeah.
It was the Democrats getting together, and they were rah-rahing Democrat candidates, which is a good thing. We're two party state, right, or two-party country. It's how we operate. School boards aren't supposed to be that. I get some emails from people that are very interesting, and you read the email and you can kind of tell which way they lean, right? Because the people that are sending me emails that are asking me specific questions about party, you can tell where they are, and they're usually pretty far right or usually pretty far left. And what I like to finish with in those discussions is, if I have to pick a side, I pick the kids. I'm not picking a party.
Yeah.
I'm laser focused on the kids and our taxpayers, and what makes our kids successful with the money that we get from the taxpayers, spending it wisely, making sure that our teachers are supported, and that our kids come out with a great education.
Awesome.
Hope that
Okay.
answers your question.
No, that does. That does. Real quick, I guess for wrap up, give us a little bit. Let people know about election day, early voting, and
Yep.
the thought that you want them to run off to the polls with.
Yep. So early voting starts Monday. Tuesday is a state holiday, so there's no early voting on the 21st. So
Okay.
early voting starts on the 20th, off day on the 21st, and then voting goes from the 22nd through the 28th. You can vote anywhere in the county. It's very easy. On election day, you have to vote in your precinct. and the election day is Saturday, May 2nd, right? Uh, Boy, this whole time since I declared has flown by. I can't believe that the election starts next week with early voting. Um, if people want to find out more about me, Greg Petolick for Denton ISD Net. You can send me an email. I answer my emails pretty quickly. You can follow me on Facebook. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. I'd love to have conversations with you. The next forum is tomorrow. I'm sorry, Wednesday, the PTA forum, 6:30 at Denton High School.
Yeah. Excellent. I want to thank you for coming out. I always like to say, we're here because Denton matters. You're here because Denton matters. Real quick, and just a reiteration, a PSA for anybody watching: municipal elections. Election day is Saturday. We get tons of people who go, "I'm here on a Tuesday," or that's weird. It's a Saturday, not a Tuesday.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
Municipal elections are on a Saturday, which is a
that's
great
right.
thing because everybody should have an opportunity,
Everyone
a
should
better
be able to
opportunity than
vote.
Tuesday. But anyway,
Right.
Greg, want to thank you for taking some time talking to us. Let us know about yourself, letting us know about yourself and what's important to you. Good luck.
Matt, thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.